Guild Wars 2 has been a game that a lot of you said that I should try out. First launching back in like 2013, it was right around my peak WoW addiction, so it's always been kind of off my radar compared to everything else. I've heard things about the game overall, and so I figured what a better time to try it out than right before the next expansion drops. And I was in for quite the surprise. For my main, I made an elementalist. I like mage-like characters, I figured it was a safe bet, and then I jumped into the world and begun my adventures. Jumping into that first mission felt pretty cinematic. You start out right in the heat of a battle, you're fighting off waves of enemies before hitting a climactic boss fight and then bringing you into the actual world. Once in the world, I am so used to the traditional questing that MMOs offer that Guild Wars 2's take was a bit refreshing. Instead of going from NPC to NPC, grabbing a bunch of quests and then fulfilling them, it encourages you to explore different areas of the map a bit more, to find these heart things on the map and do the quests that pertain to them. It was refreshing, at least at first. After the first couple zones, I noticed a trend. These quests were extremely copy-paste. Go from one area to the next, kill mobs, interact with objects, fill up the bar, and move on to the next objective. And then you do this over and over and over from zone to zone, and every once in a while you find a hidden gem of a quest like this one that turns you into a pig. But it overall was much of the same. What was nice though is in these areas there always appeared to be some sort of event going on in that area that would grant you additional rewards. There are also various collectible items through each zone, some of which need you to think about how to jump and go through puzzles, which adds a bit more to the exploration. Then there's the main storyline that you can progress through as you hit certain milestones, which has a bit more story-driven aspect to it than the scattered world quests, but even that really wasn't hooking me. Thankfully, though, leveling went pretty quickly, and everything appears to scale with your level. As long as you are above it, you'll scale down with it, you won't scale up. So even if you are out leveling a zone, your character just gets bumped down to the same playing field, but it continues to just be more of the same. Even when I hit level 20, I still felt like I had no idea what I was really supposed to be doing besides questing. There was also no challenge in these areas, everything just died way too quick. I got into the habit of not looking at my health because it was never getting low, as I just flung fire at various mobs. But things did start to get a bit more challenging around level 30. Not like nail-biting difficulty, but it did require me to pay a bit more attention to my rotation and my health. Beyond the questing though, the first-time user experience is very outdated and very lacking. It does not do a good job at explaining things well. There are so many UI options and so many different skill selections and upgrades in different categories, none of which is really taught, and the amount of different systems entangled into the mess of the UI was a bit overwhelming for somebody who had never played the game before. This is probably due to the fact that there are 6 or so expansions worth of bloat now, and like a lot of MMOs, the features tend to pile up after a while. But it comes a time where I feel like the devs probably should revisit these areas to help retain newer players like myself, and we are way past that point of needing the polish. Combat-wise, I don't hate the combat. It's not the best tab targeting I've ever played, but I don't think it's trying to be. It seems to be taking on a somewhat hybrid approach and isn't full in the tab targeting side of things. It did what it needed to do, and overall it was tolerable and far from what I would consider the worst combat. My favorite part about the game has to be the mounts. With the base game, you get access to this lizard guy for like 10 hours of game time, and the movement felt amazing. The guy cruised through the world, I had a fun time doing it. The combat abilities they have, I didn't really find myself using too often, but it didn't really matter to me either. But after that 10 hours, the starter mount goes away, because apparently mounts are locked behind expansions. This alone made me almost quit. As somebody who wasn't really hooked into the game, the moment that mount expired and I started running around the world, I probably would have been done if I wasn't trying to give this game a fair shake for this channel. So alas, I did what I had originally no intention of doing and bought the first 2 expansion bundle, being Heart of Thorns and Path of Fire, so I could continue not walking through the entire leveling process. For an MMO that came out almost 14 years ago, it is amazing to me that every single expansion still has a box cost, and it seems that the mount in the poor inventory space is really their incentive at forcing you into buying those expansions that really should be free at this point. But alas, they still managed to get my money. I really didn't want to keep going though at this point. Why? Because after level 30, the game was still not grabbing my attention. Every time I logged in, I felt like I was forcing myself to play. As fast as the leveling is, as fun as the mount play is, this game just did not grab my attention the way other MMOs do. I've been told all sorts of things, such as the fun is in the endgame PvP, or the first expansion is when things really start to get good, but I shouldn't feel like I have to force myself to get to that point. The enjoyment of the game should carry me there, and it doesn't seem like I'm alone. A lot of people I've talked to said it took them several times jumping into the game to actually find the magic of Guild Wars, but at this point that magic seemed to be missing for me. Thankfully though, what I didn't realize was that the first expansion bundle came with a level 80 boost, so I figured if I wasn't enjoying the main questing and the leveling, then I would fast track that to see if the magic really is in the late gamer expansions. So I made a necromancer because I hear they're insanely fun, and I used that boost on the necro so I could still process through the main game on my elementalist later if I chose to. At this point, I was finally through all of the early leveling BS, and I dove right into Heart of Thorns expansion, and you can instantly see the quality improvement here. The story and the questing are much more grand in scale and more cinematic than they've been through every single part I've done thus far, which really pulled me back into kind of enjoying the game a bit more. The downside, I have no idea what's going on starting at the Heart of Thorns, but I'll figure that out later. The second thing I noticed is expansions don't increase the level cap. You're still earning XP towards what are called mastery points, and it seems each expansion has its own mastery tree type of thing, which honestly is a pretty cool take. A lot of games with each expansion, you get that leveling that really kind of feels forced and pointless at that point, taking you to the next endgame point, and a lot of that time is used just to push you through the new zones. With this approach in Guild Wars 2, they are still pushing people through these zones for the story for those who want to, but from what it seems, you aren't exactly locked out from any other content besides maybe the mounts if you don't take on that expansion. And you can do any expansion in any order, there's no prerequisites into which one you do first. This also helps keep the expansions relevant, unlike a lot of MMOs such as World of Warcraft, where each expansion kind of voids out the previous one, having you skip it in the leveling process to get to the most current, which will leave large gaps in the story for a lot of players who enjoy that sort of thing. As for the end game in Guild Wars 2, well, they seem to be going by a do whatever you want type of thing. There is a heavy focus on horizontal progression, really giving you a lot more freedom than your typical theme park MMO where the end goal is always to get better and better through vertical progression. It's a nice change of pace, but really took some time for me to actually appreciate. My first mindset when I used that level 80 boost was, okay, how do I get good? How do I get the best gear, which I realized is not exactly the point of endgame Guild Wars 2. It's not a rush to the latest raid and to get best in slot sets, it's explore and have fun, experience the game at my own pace, and be that pro arena player that I am. I'm far from an expert on Guild Wars 2 PvP, but jumping into arenas I really felt like I was holding my own as a fresh level 80. It doesn't feel like a miserable grind to progress through 3 sets of gear before I get to that point, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I am currently progressing through Heart of Thorns, and I got my first glider, I'm going through the chapters, and the best part is, when that brand new expansion drops next week, it won't matter where I am in the game, because the only barrier to entry for that new area is paying for the box cost. Everything else doesn't matter. I don't have to finish the last 5 expansions, I have no rush to power through loads of previous content before the update like I felt with New World trying to get through the Brimstone and Angry Earth before the Nighthaven update dropped. It took a long time and many hours to get me to this point, and going through that leveling I never thought I'd actually get here, but I am actually enjoying Guild Wars 2 at the end game. If they could do one thing, it would be to revisit the earlier levels and teach people what this game is all about a little better, because the modern MMO audience seems to be in a completely different mindset, myself included, than you need to be going into this game, and I personally think that's why it took me so long to adjust to this type of MMO.